The first step for anyone, especially in college, is budgeting. So I like to check my banking app once a week.
Once a week?
Once a week. That's kind of,
Catch me on once a month, maybe.
Yeah. Again, take the first step. And not wanting to know what's going on is definitely a hugely common thing. And I empathize with that. That's totally fair. I don't want to see those red numbers come up either. But it's doable.
Centsible Steps podcast, episode 2. I'm Ethan Freeland, your host.
I'm Forrest Templin. We are marketing students here to promote the MFLP program, a beautiful service on campus, providing financial literacy, tools, skills, and we're here with Jeremy today. I'm a peer mentor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
So what are we going to get into first today?
Let's learn a little bit about yourself. How did you get into finance? How did you get into the MFLP program?
Basically, how I chose finance was every career aptitude test I've ever taken has told me to be either a teacher, a psychologist, or a therapist. But coming into college, though, I discovered a passion for personal finance, just having control over my own resources, my own life in that sense. So it's my 4th year at college so far. I came in freshman year with an interest in psychology and then kinesiology, and then eventually I declared finance. So I've got 1 more year left, but it's been really exciting so far, and I've been working with the Merriman Financial Literacy Program for over a year. It's been super exciting, and I discovered the career path of financial planner, which will allow me to develop that one-on-one relationship with a client while also acting as a fiduciary, which means I have to act with their best interests at heart and do my best to help them achieve their goals.
So you're a financial therapist.
Yeah.
You've taken your multidisciplinary route, and that's awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully I can end up mixing all of my passions into one.
Yeah, how do we get bikes involved in that too?
You've actually talked to Merryman, right?
Yeah, no, we hop on the phone sometimes. He gave me some advice recently about risk and risk management for a workshop that I'm putting on March 5th. So very exciting. He's full of knowledge and wisdom. His whole big, I want to say motto is he wants to educate others to be able to manage their own finances without just solely relying on a financial planner or advisor for that. Light bulb moment. Yeah. Coming to college as a freshman, there's so much uncertainty about how to manage your entire life, right? And finance, whether you're paying attention to it or not, it affects you in so many ways. So it's so important to keep track of everything. If you can keep track of everything, you can plan for unexpected black swan events, as they're called in the finance world. Like we were just talking earlier about someone who had a huge car payment and rent and a plane ticket to pay for at the same time, which, if you don't have a safety cushion, there's just no way out. You have to go into debt for that.
Yeah. And that's the goal, avoid debt.
Avoid debt at all costs.
Our next topic, and so we put out a survey out into the school. We put posters up around the campus. If you ever saw posters with a cat with laser eyes, that was us.
Cash, credit, or struggle.
Cash, credit, or struggle.
We've got a lot of all of those.
Yeah.
Personally and collectively.
Mostly struggles, not a whole lot of cash or credit. Starting off, we asked what word best describes your current financial emotional state. And 68% of students said anxious, 36% said frustrated, overwhelmed was 50%, and uncertain was 68%, with optimistic only being 22%.
Yeah,
this was 4 mentions of it. We had 23 respondents.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that seems pretty overwhelmingly negative.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of struggle.
Which makes sense because, these financial literacy topics aren't really taught to you in high school, which is when they should be taught, in my opinion, because you need them at all stages of your life.
What if the anxiety of the state, right, comes from it might come from not knowing or not wanting to know.
Yeah.
What if I don't want to know? I know I don't. Yeah. I don't want to know what is going out compared to what's coming in because I know that it's a deficit.
The avoidant attachment style. I like that. Yeah. So that really gets into the psychology of money, which is fascinating to me. Everyone has a money personality that develops over time, usually starting with a core memory, a core money memory, as we've called it in the Whatcom Dream program. They have a local workshop series here.
So I accept the reality, which is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting all these expenses into paper, it doesn't feel good. But then I go into, all right, I know now, and I'm going to take these off. I'm going to do this. I build some confidence. I've faced my fear, my avoidant. What I was avoiding was
Right.
was knowing the reality of my spending. But then now I'm failing at upholding responding to the reality of that. And then where do we go? Like,
Yeah.
if it's kind of, I guess, just the cycle.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you need an accountability buddy.
True.
Someone that you
I got
can-
Yusuf.
Yeah.
And you now.
Exactly. Any of the peer mentors are here for that. You can just make recurring meetings with a peer mentor or just a friend, and you can go through them together. Money is such a taboo topic for so many people, but in my opinion, it really shouldn't be. In your case, or in anyone's case that needs an accountability buddy, just find a friend, and you can both do the same budgeting exercises together once a month.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Once a month.
So we asked, do you currently budget your monthly expenses? And 54% of people, 54% students said no.
Yeah.
And for what financial topics do you feel most confident about? Budgeting ranked incredibly low, with only 28% saying that they were very confident about it. So I think budgeting for students really is like the main problem. And I think it goes back to the fact that, you know, many of us, if you're getting into your first or second year in college, university, like you were basically a kid relying on your parents, like not 4 years ago, you know, like basically a toddler.
Yeah.
And so the idea of budgeting your money, that's like what mom and dad does.
Yeah.
And now you actually have to do it.
Yeah, there's such a big sense of uncertainty about budgeting as a whole, but it's like taking the first step is often the hardest part. So if you can just only take 2 minutes, there's, you know, the 2-minute rule. If you really don't want to do something like a homework assignment, just sit down for 2 minutes, only do 2 minutes of it, and then you tell yourself, after 2 minutes, I can stop. That's
There
all
we
it
go.
takes. But what happens most often is after 2 minutes, you're like, wait, okay, this is actually really doable. I can just continue until I'm done, which is how I see most of my tasks ahead of myself. I really struggle to take the first step and actually start my homework, but if I can just take 2 minutes out of my day, find a free budgeting resource, spreadsheet, something like that, it's so doable.
It's crazy just how intimidating. Like, I almost don't want to know.
I don't want to talk about this
I don't
anymore.
like looking at my bank account
Yeah.
information.
I don't want to talk about
I'm
it.
never happy with money, and that's the problem.
I mean, let's talk about uncertainty though, and failure, right? Like, we're probably going to fail.
Yeah.
Well, define failure for me in a financial sense.
That's a great question.
Just being unprepared, I think, is a sense of failure.
Yeah, I would say failing to, I guess, surface level, like externally, to hit the goals that I set. Maybe I say that I want to get this much money, and then I fail. But that, at the end of the day, like, it's very surface level. I think deeper than that, it's my personal fears around not having enough, or like losing what I already have.
Yeah.
Because I'm more afraid of loss than anything else.
Yeah. In my opinion, if you're able to take the status element out of it, like, you want money for financial freedom, for control, to make decisions without that anxiety being there at all times, not necessarily to have a new, you know, physical item like a new car or a watch or something like that. I kind of try to detach myself from my emotions sometimes. Acknowledgement is a better word. You have to self-analyze, say like, hey, I feel this way about money or about this new purchase, and then ask yourself why.
Continuously. What do you think, Ethan? What does it spark?
Yeah, well, going back to the question of, you know, how do you really define financial failure? And what I think about is losing control of your life. Because financial failure, it's not just about how much money you have, but it's all about, and the whole point of money is to be able to live the lifestyle that you want. And so, like, for instance, if you're a student and you want to be a full-time student, and you don't want to have to worry about this job stuff on the side. Financial failure is realizing you got to get a job, and you don't want a job.
Yeah.
And that's a real failure right there. And so,
For me, success equals happiness. And if it's a job you don't want, that's unhappiness. That's not success yet.
Yeah.
So if you can find a way out of it, that's ideal. But sometimes you just have to stick with it for a while.
Yeah, and taking responsibility for our lives. No one is responsible for us but ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting out of this alive, so we also have to accept the innate like uncertainty
Yeah.
and have faith
Yeah.
that like we have the tools and we can face the challenges when
Yeah.
they come up.
And so often those challenges are out of our control. You know, things affect us that we didn't expect, didn't anticipate. But budgeting is one of those things that you can control.
One of the few things,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So if you can clear your mind of all your anxieties that you can't control or you have no control over, budgeting becomes like the one thing you can really focus on to give yourself some sense of peace of mind. They're just the fact that there's so much randomness that's going to come at you throughout your life that you can't plan for,
Yeah,
right? So you have to be ready for kind of anything.
these black swan events, like you say.
Exactly. Like if you're investing and it's not as diversified as it could be, like for example, right now the tech stocks are going crazy and they have been for a couple of years. Magnificent Seven, like Google, Nvidia, Tesla, Microsoft, and Apple, and I think there's one other. So companies like Tesla have a price to earnings ratio, which is the price of their stock compared to how much the company is earning. Tesla's is like 121, which means they are 121 times overpriced. Their stock at least. So like one share of Tesla is worth 121 times what it should be reflected by what they're earning, if that makes sense. Want to catch up and have a lower PE ratio, they would have to sell a car to like everyone on the earth. It's insane. So
Is that realistic?
in my opinion, no. And some of these giant companies are worth more and losing more each day than countries are worth. Like Nvidia went down $600 billion in a day like a month ago, I think, and then it came back up, which is absurd. It's crazy. So there's a lot of risk in that, a lot of volatility.
advisors comment.
Yeah.
I've never even heard about this stuff.
Yeah. So it's really scary to think about.
Sounds more like roulette than anything else.
Yeah. But you can invest in more things than just common stocks.
And that's definitely stuff that's important into the future. But thinking about students right now, you know, I think that like, you know, the costs of apartments and like rent is probably like the most pressing concern. And so,
Always.
And
It
so
always
kind of,
will be.
Rent
and so
and
kind
groceries.
of bringing back to students at Western and how MFLP can really help them. What's like are there like common mistakes that you think students make when it comes to finding when they leave the dorms and they go out into the city and live on their own? Is there like common mistakes like bad landlords and stuff like that?
Yeah, so every student is different based on their money personality and the habits they have, but a big one I see a lot is going out to eat too much. So rent, if you can find hopefully an unpredatory management company or a landlord that you know and can like talk to in person, that's ideal. But other than that, it's groceries are expensive, so I'm just gonna go out to eat, and that's so much more expensive.
Yeah.
So cooking on a budget is a skill that needs to be developed for everyone, I think.
I've made tons of soup in my life, just going and buying cheap chicken, millions of dollars to invest.
I have no stake in their game, and preferably I'd rather less attention go towards their moves, but rather like media talks about giving us ways to better ourselves, which is, I mean, what this is. But like, really, I think that these players are managing risk in their own way, and I think most of business as well, like leveraging their debt and then having overextended PE ratios, like it looks good on paper, and you're maybe you talked about and people trust you, but like that's not the faith that I hold in the businesses that I do, the business that I do locally.
Yeah, it's uncertain. So
Very.
when it comes to investing, I believe that holding index funds over the long term and only selling if it's a life-changing amount of money. To think about it again, you never have to look at it, you don't have to check.
And that's your style.
Yeah.
You'd prefer not to look at the stock market every day.
Right, because it's so closely tied to your emotions. And if something you've invested in is doing well, you're more likely to feel good about it, buy more, right? But if it's doing poorly, you want to sell. And buying high and selling low is the worst thing you can do. The fastest way to lose your money, right? You want to buy low, sell high.
And how does the Merryman Financial Literacy Program, how does it help with students going through these transitions?
Right. So in our one-on-one meetings, or even through the workshops we hold, saying that they don't have enough money to start saving yet, right? But in my opinion, there's always something you can save, right? Even if it's just a couple dollars, you can open a retirement account, put $1 in there, and that's the first hardest step out of the way, So it just depends on the individual.
Do you think we should start saving for retirement now?
I am. I believe in that, but it depends on personal preference. But your worst case is going to be, you get to retirement age, you realize, wow, if I had started investing when I was 20, or saving at least, I would be able to retire early. But here I am at 65 without enough money to even last me 5 years. And $1 million today is not what it was when we were born, right? So.
Well, what if I like risk and maybe I buy lottery tickets every now and then?
Yeah.
And that's my plan.
Yeah.
Would you say it's a little too risky?
I would say it's not going to take you very far.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah. For me, I don't like seeing that because it's a consistent and steady decrease in your cash, right? The fastest, riskiest way to become financially free the soonest is to have your own business, right? Or be an independent contractor, consultant, something like that, where you're not getting paid a salary for your time. Like an hourly wage is a bottleneck in some senses because you can only work so many hours a day.
Yeah.
But having your own business, there's no actual cap to that. But it comes with a lot of risk, and a lot of business owners go through multiple businesses before they find success there.
I am on this path. It is very risky. It is very uncertain.
Yeah.
It's exhilarating though.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that part about it.
Yeah.
It's better than buying lottery tickets.
As long as you can plan for that uncertainty.
But there is a lot of planning that is required, and faith, and the team building, right? Like this goes even beyond like financial concepts, but also if you're going to become if you're willing to take a risk and sacrifice these things, like you're willing to lose, you're willing to fail, you probably will fail. I've failed consistently.
I feel
Every day, right?
Yeah.
Every day. So I think just accepting that is there's immense fear because as the consequences stack and responsibilities stack, failure brings deeper consequences.
Yeah. But being okay with failure is a skill.
So we have to have faith, or how do we?
You have to have budgeting.
Maybe because that gives me faith that.
What takes a lot of concern out of those situations for me, if I was to find myself in one, would be to have a safety cushion. And that comes with budgeting. It's like, hey, I've been putting away 10% of my income for the past 5 years. So I'm able, if I get in a car accident without insurance or something like that, I'm able to pay it. Or if my business goes under, or I have a bad month or a bad quarter, I'm able to, out of pocket, kind of smooth over those downturns a little bit.
Yeah.
But with businesses, it's tough. Maybe find an angel investor or something like that. All about preparation. Really. So, but at the same time, you don't want to take all the spontaneity out of it. I think financial freedom allows you to be spontaneous while being prepared at the same time, which is, that's my goal. I just want to be able to take a vacation, if I need to, at any time of the year. But to do that, I need to be prepared, hey, maybe my job isn't going to let me do that. So if I have enough saved up where I can
Yeah.
even quit my job if I really need to.
Take matters into your own hands.
That's ideal.
For your leisure time.
And I think a
Yeah.
part of
Similar
that
to
is not overburdening yourself with
Mhm.
like things like a mortgage or a car payment. I think
Mhm.
that's another mistake that people make. A common thing that I hear about is, guys getting, these jobs and then they immediately burden themselves with a huge car payment because they're on top of the world and
Yeah.
they think they can get what they want.
Yeah.
And it's like, that $75,000, $80,000 you're now making is like gone
Yeah.
because of just
Income,
expenses.
income and net worth are two totally separate things. So there's this thing called lifestyle inflation, I believe, where you get a pay raise and you're immediately like you want to spend more.
Yeah.
The status of having more money, you want to show it off. But in reality, that's like you get a pay raise, that's more money you can save. You don't have to adjust your lifestyle.
Right.
It's doable.
Yeah.
And if you value your leisure time,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to need to have that spare income.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you don't, so you can quit your job if you really wanted to go live in Hawaii for a little bit.
100%.
Yeah,
That's financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
All starts with budgeting. And it kind of ends with budgeting as well. I think a lot of people have this notion that once I'm rich, I won't need to budget anymore. But it's the opposite. You have more to budget.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
no,
never
true.
goes away.
True. You're just like stacking your skills.
Yeah.
Stacking your budgeting skills.
Exactly.
I love that, dude. I love that. And it helps us feel some sense of confidence when facing failure and consistent uncertainty, which is what we know finance is
Yeah.
innately.
I think it's a good kind of place to start heading out is the talking about how this world that we live in is pretty chaotic, and
What are
that
you talking about, dude? It makes so much sense.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I don't know what's going on.
Everything always goes to plan, don't you know?
Yeah, everything I want it happens
Things never go
every
to plan.
day.
Everything's always breaking down.
Yeah.
Stars are exploding into the sky.
Mhm.
Nothing's going well.
No.
And,
No, there's pain.
and finance and budgeting is the way to sort of put an end to that chaos in our own individual lives. To have pockets of peace and stability. And
It
that's
can-
really the value of MFLP. I think.
Yeah, it can be really uncomfortable to start to budget, but once you get started, it takes so much anxiety off your shoulders. Like a weight will be lifted that you didn't even realize was there. It's necessary, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah, maybe next week we'll get some more optimistic outlooks for our emotional state. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I think to wrap it up, I think a lot of people tie their net worth or their income to their self-worth. And I think finding a way to separate those two things is super important as well.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Where's a healthy space to draw my self-worth from when we're in business mindset?
I want to say even in a business mindset, your values, your ideals, what you believe in, if you can hold on to those and kind of view your finances separately, like how much money you are doesn't determine how good of a person you are. It doesn't determine how well liked you are. It's just something you have. It's a thing. It's a tool. Really, your army of dollar bills is just working for you to help you get where you're going.
Yeah, ideally in pursuit of your ideal, right? Your
Pursuit of
ideal world.
happiness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that is world peace.
Yeah.
Ideally, you're working towards. You should be working your full. Yeah, your what did you say? Tool army of army of dollars.
dollar bills.
Yeah, army of
Yeah.
dollar bills, just going full assault onto.
Yeah, I love calling it an army of dollar bills because it allows you to think individually of each dollar, so you're not just like buying something without thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I'm killing 15 of my army, my
Yeah.
generals,
Because it is a sacrifice too, and
Yeah.
I love that. It's a creative outlook
Mm-hmm.
and very inspiring around like separating personally myself from any business failure, from any money failure,
Mm-hmm.
but trusting myself, having faith in the values that I hold deep and my principles, my character.
Would you guys rather pay for an experience or for a thing, an object?
The thing about experience is that moments are fleeting.
Mm.
And so like every time I'm doing something that I really enjoy, I have that thought in the back of my mind is that this is all just going to be over soon, and it'll just be a memory, and it won't be here anymore. But then with like an object, like you buy a book or you get a something that is really sentimental to you, it persists through time. So I know there's like this huge theme of like experiences versus possessions, but I almost think that if you combine the sentimentality of the moment with an object, I think I would prefer an object, if that makes sense.
I liked how you talked about your fleeting moment. This is a great question. Your fleeting experience, or your the feeling of time fleeting while you're in the experience, and that is almost like drawing you away from the experience.
It's torture.
Itself. It's torture.
Everything is torture.
It's kind of like life. We're a very fleeting experience here, alive.
Yeah.
And the material items, maybe yes, they seem solid and they will persist. The Earth will persist long after we are.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we put any more value towards the Earth, but we put more value towards our consumer goods, right?
Yeah.
I do think that experiences, I've seen this firsthand, promoting festivals and events, that they can enrich and build upon what we already have.
Yeah.
Substantially more than extracting anything else out of the dirt or producing this new gadget that is probably going to actually break sooner than I forget the community experience.
I was gonna say, the moments themselves may be fleeting, but I think memories are what make up who we are, right? And you can learn things from your memories, more than an object, I hope, at least.
Yeah. What do you think about experience versus
I want to lean
material?
toward experiences. At the same time, if you can have an experience while also having an object that is tied to that memory of the experience, right? It'll refresh it, keep it like front of mind for you.
Yeah.
I think that's ideal. You get the best of
True.
both worlds.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then making the object itself too like more experiential forward.
Exactly.
It's not about the item,
the item itself,
but it's about how it makes you.
represents.
Yeah, what it represents.
Yeah.
How it makes you believe in yourself more or remember your friends or love, right?
I like that.
That's a beautiful space to end.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being here, Jeremy. It's a great conversation. I think you represented MFLP, the Mariman Financial Literacy Program, very well.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forrest, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you, Jeremy. Like this
All
was
right.
this was really cool. Call up Merriman someday, and we'll
Get
tell
an
him how much.
appointment with Jeremy.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Please book an appointment with me.
Great guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Beautiful.
Thank you for having me. Anytime, I'll come back.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
guys.
Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you.